welcome to the On Deck podcast. I'm your host today, Tyler Wiemann. Unfortunately, my co-host Shannon is out today, and I will be taking the reins here. Let's just jump right into it today. First off, we are presented by LineStar. You can get in with only $30 a month, and we have some great new tools that we just added, that being Prop Edge Plus. This is awesome. It is a really good tool for player props. You can bet using normal player props. You can also bet using PrizePicks and Underdog props. And it is a great tool that I think everybody is going to be really excited about. So far, we have had great feedback, and I expect that only to keep growing. So without further ado, let's kind of talk about some baseball here and jump in. First of all, as far as the weather, there are a couple spots that we are a little bit worried about. That is, we have cool weather in Colorado. The winds are blowing in. And then in San Diego, we're dealing with some tropical systems here. It is weird for us to have rain, but it's happening. And there is a chance that the game is postponed. So keep an eye on that. Now, let's just dig right in, and we're going to go to the high-owned pitchers. So the high-owned pitcher tonight is Robbie Ray at 40% ownership on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he is 34% owned. Ray's coming in. He has been absolutely great lately. However, it is against the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves hit lefties very hard. As you can see right here, we have a 386 WOBA versus lefties and a 197 ISO. So they hit them hard, hit them well. Robbie Ray is giving up 240 average to Atlanta hitters. And now we can click and just see what he's done in the past. He has been okay, hasn't been spectacular. So do with that information what you will. Next, we have Lucas Giolito at 33% owned. And on FanDuel, he's coming in at 18% owned. Today, he is going against the Oakland Athletics, who, as we know, and we have talked about every single slate almost throughout the entire season, they are not good versus righties. So at 29% K rate for the expected lineup tonight, we have a 300 WOBA and a 132 ISO, so they don't hit the ball hard. They haven't been well. Meanwhile, Giolito is averaging 30% more fantasy points while away. So as we can see, he hasn't been that great, but he is not very expensive, and he's had some really big games versus Oakland. So it's definitely interesting. The field is there, but digging into these stats, he hasn't been, the Giolito we're used to lately. There is some strikeout upside. We do have him at a 25% combined K rate. So there is some upside there. You have to consider him. He is in a great spot. And next we have Nick Lodolo. So this is kind of a weird one. He has had some huge games, some really big upside, but then he also drops the average dud here. So this one could go either way. Now, Lodolo is fairly high owned here at 28% and on FanDuel at 6%. So if you are playing on FanDuel and you do like Lodolo, you can get him pretty unowned there. So let's kind of dig in a little bit on the stats on him. It is an okay matchup versus Milwaukee, 28% K rate, low ISO, semi-low WOBA. But the story here is this 29.2% combined K rate. So he has major upside, and that is why he is getting high owned. He has also been very good lately, 2.72 FIP over the last 5 starts. However, the StatCast data is a little scary. He's been bottom 10 in barreled balls allowed over this last month. He is also giving up a decent amount of hard contact and, like I said, a lot of barreled balls. So there is a little bit of sketchiness going with him. You don't know what you're going to get. He is a high variance pitcher. It would make sense to maybe consider some Milwaukee stacks as well if you are playing multiple lineups. Obviously, I would not stack Milwaukee versus Lodolo. And next, let's get into some of our low-owned pitchers that I think are kind of interesting today. We'll go right into Ross Stripling. He is coming in at like 3% owned on DraftKings, 2% on FanDuel, but he has been another pitcher that has had a very good, recent outings here, as we've seen. He has some solid upside. He's versus Texas, who has not been that great of it. Hitting team, and over his last 5 starts, a 2.95 FIP, 3.06 over the last 20. So he's a guy that has a good track record of being a very good pitcher. The thing that is interesting to me about him is this K rate has came up significantly. Now, he has faced a couple teams that do like to strike out, but Texas does as well. So we're right in there today. The other thing is the StatCast data is really good. I do like Stripling quite a lot today. 26.5% combined K rate. So for his price, he is doing very well. The one thing I will bring up, though, the opponent team BVP, 19 plate attempts. Texas is hitting 333 off of him. Now, that is a very limited sample size, so I wouldn't go too much into it, but it has been from this year. As you can see, he went 1 inning through 24 pitches earlier in the season, let up 2 runs. So this is a big reason why, those numbers don't look so great. I wouldn't be too worried about it. So next we'll talk about Charlie Morton here. So Morton, we all know, is a very good pitcher. So you kind of got to like that tonight. And he's against Seattle, which is a little risky. Seattle is a very good offense, but Morton's also a very good pitcher with huge K upside. Almost a 35% K rate over the last 5 starts. That's up from 32% over his last 20 starts. Now, his StatCast data is decent. The BVP numbers are very good. The K rate is a little lower than you'd want, but it is BVP. Can't take too much weight on it, especially when it's only a 30 plate attempt sample size. But the combined K rate here at almost 28% is great. So I love the upside with Morton at a little less ownership. And again, his ownership here is 24%, and on FanDuel it's 14%. So next, we will talk about a little bit of a risky one, and that is Drew Rasmussen. He is a good pitcher, been very good lately. He is going against the Yankees, which is a little bit scary here, but he has had some very, very good outings lately. And as we can see, a 2.2 FIP over the last 5 starts, 3.1 over his last 20. He is a good pitcher, has been great, and he has some good K upside, almost a 30% K rate going against a somewhat strikeout-prone team in the Yankees, who, as you can see, versus righties hasn't been good. 23% K rate, 290 WOBA, 160 ISO. It is the Yankees. We know they hit the ball, so that is not that surprising. My worry about him is he hasn't been as good away. It is a 50% less fantasy points win away, so do take that into consideration if you want to use him. And we do have a 27% combined K rate at him. I do think he's interesting, and he's in a nice spot here. So next, we will go into some of the high-owned hitters. And I always like to go to the daily matchup tool to kind of look at that. So first off, we have Arizona. They're in Colorado. No surprise, they are the high owned. Now, once again, remember there is cool weather here, so it does stop the ball from traveling quite as much. And we have wind blowing in. Thus, we have the game total of 10 versus the normal summer game totals of 11 plus in Colorado. But Arizona has done excellent against Marquez, as you can see. Varsho, Marte, they've crushed him. Rojas has crushed him. And we pull out the player card. There is a lot of red on Marquez's player card, which is not a good sign for his outlook today. Mid-4s whip. He hasn't been great in Colorado, letting a lot of hard contact, some high exit velocity. And BVP numbers haven't been great either. I think Arizona's in a good spot. However, just know that the crowd is going to go there as well. So next we have Philadelphia versus Patrick Corbin. As we know, everybody has wanted to stack against Corbin all year long, and it's not going to stop today. And you can see all these numbers. Hoskins, Bohm, Realmuto, Schwarber, Stott, all of them have had a lot of success against Corbin, and we would expect that to continue today. Corbin is allowing almost 36% hard contact, tons of barreled balls. He's also averaging 73% fantasy points while away. So all of this looks really good for Philadelphia today, and I wouldn't be fading them just because they're higher owned. So next, let's go into some of the lower owned stacks that are interesting. We'll head back to Colorado here with using the Colorado Rockies now instead of the Diamondbacks, which you can get Colorado, a little less ownership, and you're still playing in that game. And we can see few guys have hit Davies very hard in the past. The thing about Davies is he can be a decent pitcher, but he's also prone to huge blow-up games. And so we're hoping in Colorado it could be one of these, as we have seen him had a few in the past here. Now digging into Davies a little bit more, he is a ground ball pitcher, so that is one bad thing about stacking Colorado. However, if he doesn't have his stuff and he's letting people get under the ball a little bit more, it is really dangerous for ground ball pitchers. So I do like that stack. And the next I like is the Houston Astros. Houston is going against Michael Lorenzo, and they have teed off him in the past, and as we know, that Houston offense is extremely dangerous. Lorenzo is just coming back off the IL, so we don't know how deep he's going to be going, and frankly, he hasn't been a good pitcher. 4.7 or 4.6 FIP over the last 20, 5.6 over the last 5, and he's a guy that we can pick on. Houston has hit him very hard in 27 plate attempts. They're hitting 381, giving up 3 home runs, 429 ISO. Again, that is a small sample size, but at this low ownership and a high Vegas run total of 5, I think it's a spot that you really should consider. So, guys, that will do it all for us today. We don't have our home run calls today or the prop bets. However, you can check out the LineStar YouTube. We have the prop bets for NFL. We have the touchdown calls dropping today. So we still are doing giveaways just through that medium today instead of on good old the MLB On Deck podcast. But thank you guys. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and we will see you next week.